Welcome to This Week in Princeton Vikings Athletics here on VikeNation.org and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports. My name is Jason Griefer. As always, we're joined by Joe Roberts, who's on the road here today. He's headed up to Columbus today, so he'll be joining us through via audio only. So if you're watching this podcast, you'll just get to see Joe Roberts' awesome professional picture taken there. And we're also joined by a very special guest here today on the podcast, Princeton softball coach Craig Black. Coach Black, good to have you on with us. We're going to go in depth with your program here in just a few minutes, but let's touch on some of the other highlights from Vikings athletics right now. Joe, let's start with the baseball team and starting to play a little bit better as of late. They've won 2 of their last 3 over the weekend and also put up 34 runs in the process. So we've talked about kind of the ups and downs with the baseball team this season, and sometimes the struggles with the bat, sometimes the struggles with the pitching staff. Injuries have played a big factor in that. But I have to imagine it had to feel pretty good for the kids to especially see the bats come alive in the last few games.
Well, yeah, Jason, I think that Friday night with Sycamore was a big turn for our kids, just to simply, like you said, get the bat on the ball, start putting it in play, getting it in position where our kids can score runs. We have tremendous amount of speed. So we don't necessarily need to play power baseball. We need to play that small ball where we can put the ball in play and give kids an opportunity to score runs and drive runs in. So it was a great Friday night under the lights over at Blue Ash Park with Sycamore. It was a really good GMC win for us. And you know, here we are back at it. And looks like the weather's going to be a beautiful day today for a little baseball as well.
Yeah, big week coming up. Sycamore, Coleraine, Lakota East on the docket coming up. So some more chances there to get some more wins. Another one over Sycamore, and perhaps one there, Coleraine, Lakota East. You never know. 3-0, not too bad. Wouldn't be a bad way to go this week there. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure.
Well, and you know how great that would be for us leading into Sunday, May 9th with the district seed meeting. That puts us in a position like we've talked about earlier where, you know, if we can get a 28, 29, 27 seed somewhere in that frame, maybe a little higher than that, then you've got a chance to surprise some people and steal a couple games in sectionals. And next thing you know, you could be in district semis. And then after that, anything can happen.
Yeah, no doubt. Get you a better matchup later on. Also, the fact that you'd be peaking at the right time heading into the sectional for sure. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and see if it indeed does play out that way. Let's jump into the pool here. And boys water polo coming off of a very, very impressive win over St. X. Kyle McDaniel at a career high 19 blocks. This is coming off also a very strong showing up in Milford over the weekend at the Milford Invitational. And so momentum's going well, continue to play well on both sides of the ball here. Big event coming up this weekend in the Packer Classic up there at Princeton High School. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I'll start with last night. I didn't get to see the boys match. We were outside with baseball, softball events. But when I got in for the girls match, I heard about just the fact that the pace was so good. It was great to be back in our home pool. We just installed a brand new video board in the natatorium, and we had that operational last night. But the kids defensively, again, had an extremely great night. And that leads us into this evening. We'll have Milford at home tonight. But then, as you were saying, starting Thursday with the Chad Packer Classic, just going to be what I would probably consider a premier water polo event for our kids and for that sport itself. Coach Packer meant so much to the sport, so much to our area and to our community. And to be able to continue to recognize and remember him and show what that sport has meant for Princeton for so many years. As we've talked about, you know, when we did senior night for swimming, how all the seniors keep talking about their most memorable event was during a water polo match here or a road match on a water polo invite somewhere else. But it's just going to be a great weekend of matches. We've got some great teams coming in, 3 full days. The JVs will kick us off on Thursday. And then we'll run varsities Friday and Saturday and get the kids out of there in time so they can make it to prom Saturday night.
And good we're able to have that this year for sure, so the kids can enjoy some of that. You touched on girls water polo and the match they had on Monday and the pace being up and where they want to have it. And so things are going well there. They have the Ohio Cup coming up this weekend before wrapping up the regular season next week against Sycamore there. As they head to this event in the Ohio Cup there, what are the coaches wanting to see from the girls as kind of maybe a final precursor and tune-up before the postseason?
I think if we've talked to Coach Shell, I think one of the things that we would continue to talk about is the fact that we're going to need to attack more. We've talked so much this season about keeping the ball at the other end of the water really enables our defense. Well, we need to continue to up that aggressiveness on the offensive side. We need to continue to create and find some shots when we can, but also the willingness to take those shots as well. So it's a little bit of a risk reward in that game. It's such a unique sport to watch and be a part of. But, you have, just like in all sports, you've got to take some risks along the way. And I think that's going to be critical for us, again, as we set in for Milford this evening. And like you said, heading out this weekend for Cup, and then close it out with Sycamore. And then we get ready for state. It's just been unbelievable how quick this spring season has gone. It goes so fast, but it's every day. So it's just amazing to watch.
Yeah, it really has been amazing how quickly it has flown by in general. Track and field has a big trip up north to the Wayne Invitational this weekend. We're going to cover that in depth on next week's show. We'll find out how the Viking athletes did up there at Wayne. But for now, we're going to get to our featured guest here today on the podcast, and that is softball head coach Craig Black. The coach, once again, appreciate taking a little bit of time to joining us here on the show here. We've talked here with Joe on the podcast in over the last few weeks. It's been a tough year. Nobody would argue that. One of the things Joe and I have also discussed is how difficult this league is from top to bottom, and there are seemingly no days off when you're in the GMC and in the grind of it on the day-to-day basis. What has it been like for you as a coach to not only see it, but have to try to navigate your team through it on a day-to-day basis?
It's definitely been a challenge. I chose to come to Princeton because it's the GMC. I mean, it is the best D1 softball league in the state. And, as a coach, sometimes you have some ego that you want to be against the best and compete against the best. And I always felt that Princeton could be there. It just is going to take some time. We've got to implement some things. But I always felt like Princeton was one of those schools where we get in, we do the right things, we're going to be able to definitely compete night in and night out in the GMC. And we're getting there. We have a very young team, as I know you've discussed. And right now we're working on trying to get consistency. And that's hard with a younger team. I saw this morning on Facebook, my starting shortstop turns 15 today. So I was like, oh my gosh, I've been playing with a 14-year-old shortstop in the GMC. Not that she hasn't earned it or anything like that, but it's like, okay, that's kind of where we're at. But, these kids have been the best group of kids that I've ever coached. They care so much about each other. They've bought in from day one. We came in, my coaching staff and I, with a plan of here's how we're going to do things. Here's our goals. Here's what we want to do. And they've bought in and they work so hard. And it's the GMC's a grind. I mean, you could beat a team Monday and the next day, like today, we're playing Lakota West, who last I saw was #1 team in the state. So it's like, hey, we got a great win. Oh, hey, we're going to go play the #1 team in the league in the state tomorrow. So, but our goal, our theme with these girls this year has been compete. Just do the best you can night in and night out. And that's all we ask for.
You mentioned it right there, and one of the things I also wanted to bring up here as well is you have a lot of underclassmen on this team, in particular freshmen and sophomores. Many of them are seeing the varsity level for the first time ever, and as you said, and as we've talked about, there are no days off. You're essentially being thrown into the fire, and you've got to pick it up on the fly. How would you say they've held up against this grueling GMC, and how have your seniors been able to lead them through it?
They're holding up. I mean, it can be a challenge because we are a team that if we have a lot of energy, if we're hype and doing well with the cheering and picking each other up, we're pretty tough. But that energy, it wanes sometimes. And, we have 4 seniors, but honestly, only one of those seniors has ever really played varsity minutes before because of last year we lost with the pandemic. And we were talking this year and we were talking about, okay, so who's played varsity ball before? And I think out of the whole program, only 2 girls raised their hands. So even though we have some upperclassmen,
Yeah.
They are upperclassmen in age, but not necessarily in experience. The good thing with our underclassmen is we have 12 girls in the program right now that are playing on summer and fall ball teams, which is huge. I coached one of the Cincinnati Red RBI teams, so I have some kids on that. One of my assistant coaches is another RBI coach, so he has Princeton kids on that as well. And to compete in the GMC, we've got to understand that we just can't pick up a softball when the season starts. We've got to be doing some things year round. Now, I'm not one of these coaches that said, oh, you need to specialize and only play one sport. You're in high school one time, play as many sports as you can. But in order to be competitive in softball, and if that's your goal, you have to do these things on the off season. And we're getting there because they are putting in that type of work.
Joe, from your perspective there, getting back to kind of the underclassmen that are kind of having to go through the grind of the GMC for the first time, we've talked about, and Coach mentioned it there, about their attitude and their willingness to learn, their willingness to compete. How would you say they've held up going through the GMC? As Coach said, a lot of them for the very first time.
Well, I think it's become infectious. Coach Black has done an unbelievable job of establishing, a semi-culture of expectation for our kids, and they've really absorbed it, and it's been eye-opening for them. But you can see them in the parking lot after school or before the game or after the game, and you can tell the enthusiasm and the energy is there. And there is a growth pattern. And we talked last week about, sophomore catcher, freshman pitcher, now finding out that, our shortstop's just now 15. Like, we've got some youth in our program and some vigor in our program that is going to play huge dividends for us down the road. And Coach is just laying that foundation right now for them. But at the same time, we got to keep their attitudes up. We got to keep their spirit up. We got to keep the mental capacity up. We all know that everyone loves and enjoys the opportunity to win, and we can talk about, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. But when they see the fruit of that labor, then that's when they really know that their progression is in part. And I think what Coach was saying about the off-season work that they're going to do, but the idea is you have to want to do it as a student athlete, and you have to be willing to make the time to put in to continue to get better. That old adage, like he just said, you can't put the bat on the shelf and grab it again in February and say, here we go. If you want to be a competitive program, you get involved, you do as much as you can, but you've got to put in that extra effort as well, and that will start to produce.
And they'll look to do that this week as road trips against Lakota West here today on Tuesday. As Coach said, the number one team in the state, and they've lived up to the billing all year long, have not lost to a team in the state of Ohio. You also get Middletown before a pretty big event coming up this weekend on Saturday, the Princeton Softball Classic. You're going to have some teams coming in to Princeton to take the diamond, and a lot of exciting things going on there. First of all, Coach, I'll go back to you. As far as just on the field goes, what are you wanting to see from your girls in a day where they get basically a triple header on deck?
The whole tournament's really designed as kind of a fun day for them, and we just want to compete. I mean, I think, no offense to the teams we invited, they're very good teams, traditionally strong, but we want to win our own tournament. And if we come out with that mindset and go out and compete, I think we have a good chance to do so. This tournament, it's something that I had been a part of with other schools I've coached at. And then my last school, I brought it there, and something that I'm bringing here, and hopefully will be an annual event. Didn't realize it was going to be the day of prom, so we already scheduled it and had things going on. But we have some seniors, we're going to work around that, and that's fine. But it's a great event. We have sponsors who had sponsored some donations. Each kid that participates and the coach is going to get a tournament t-shirt, and then we'll have our sponsors' logos on the back. We have Wing Champ from around the corner. They're going to feed all of our kids and all of our coaches from all 4 teams. We'll have some skill contests, some just fun things like rounding the bases as fast as you can. Thankfully, I'm not going to be a part of that because we need a calendar to time it. But we'll also have a catcher's accuracy contest. And then probably the most fun thing is we'll have a soft hands contest where they'll be doing an egg toss and see that, and they'll get little plaques for those that'll win. And no, I will not hard boil the Princeton girls' eggs. So, to kind of rig it in our favor. But it's a fun day. It's a great chance for us to show off our facilities, for our girls to just participate and work hard as they continue to do so. And just to, bring that Viking pride, to show that to our community and to the other teams that we have.
Joe, what do you anticipate this event being like, not only to have the great softball action, but as Coach said, all the extra activities you're going to have going on, the skills competitions? Can we possibly get you to run the bases to see how fast you can go? And also the community involvement, as Coach said, to get sponsors out there to really help put this thing together.
Yeah, I'll maybe run the bases backwards. I don't know. Maybe we'll consider that. No, like when you set out in the beginning of the season, it's about making sure you get your kids games, and having an event like this and putting in the time that coaches put in to make sure we have a quality day. We're good weather provided, and I know it's going to be a gorgeous day out, and so making sure that the kids get 3 games that day is critical. And I love the fact that we have the goal that we want to win our own tournament, because that is a benchmark for our program and gives our kids something, great momentum for the weekend. But I really want to make sure that the kids get opportunities to get out on the field. And the ones that have to leave for prom, that means that there'll be a kid who hasn't had a chance to get on that field and see an opportunity to play some softball at the varsity level, and get some pitches under their belt, and get some bats under their belt, and get us ready for what's to come. So it's going to be a beautiful day. I know the teams that are coming are going to be excited about being there. Having Wing Champ feed them, I think that's going to be a great opportunity to give Wing Champ some exposure, being not necessarily a new business, but with the pandemic, it really did set them back a little bit in terms of seats in their restaurant. They had an unbelievable carry out during that time, but getting people in and getting exposed there as well is always great to have strong community support there. And just going to be a beautiful day of softball.
Joe mentioned it, Coach. I'm going to come back to you lastly before we let you guys go here on the podcast here today. And you touched on a few moments ago the fact that we didn't have a season a year ago, so we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. We've talked about the lack of experience a lot of these girls have on your team this year, and I'm wondering what that's been like for you to not only try and put a roster together this year that does not have the same level of varsity experience as some other schools out there, while also trying to navigate all the things we still have to do in this pandemic and all the protocols we still have to abide by. And also the fact that we've been able to get through this season pretty much unscathed with no pauses or anything like that. How has it been like for you to manage?
It's been difficult, but it also is starting to be a norm. Unfortunately, we know we have to take our temperatures, and we're doing our tests, and we're practicing our social distancing and our masks and things like that. I think for me, the biggest challenge has still been the girls' mental health with all this. I have a great relationship with my kids. We're very open with each other. And one of them the other day was like, Coach, COVID is still very heavily weighing on our minds. And I kind of almost forgot about it in some ways, because we are playing, we are doing a lot of the normal things. The mask is so normal, you don't even think about it anymore. So just really making sure that, we're talking to our girls, we're making sure they're okay mentally. But it's so great that we have a season. I felt so bad. We had a great senior class last year that didn't get their senior seasons. And from day one, they bought in. They were working hard. They were leading our freshmen and our underclassmen and setting that tone, setting that example of how we're trying to flip the script here at Princeton softball, our expectations. And they were doing it from day one. And then, I get a call from, I think Joe said, hey, this is going on. We need to cancel practice at the end of the day. And I was like, okay. And so we're like, okay, girls, we'll see you in a couple days. And then it was, oh, well, we'll see you next week. And then, well, maybe next month. And the day that everything got canceled was just so hard, and I think it's given these girls this year a new appreciation, not that they didn't have it, but even more of appreciation of the fact that we do have a season. We do get to play the sport we love. And because it is still out there. We have to maintain our diligence so we don't have pauses, so we don't have cancellations. And the girls have done very well with that. And the ones that haven't have been able to step up and speak out and say, hey, I need some help with this. And my coaching staff is wonderful. We're all about kids first. We want to win the game on the field, but we're also just as important as winning the game of life with these girls. We've got 2 girls that have signed to be able to play in college next year, which is huge. And that's what we're about. And we're getting there. Again, for us, it's just getting that consistency on the field, and it'll come. It's just growing up. It's getting maturity and the experience. But one of the great things for me has been this year is just about every coach we play is like, wow, you are really changing things. Your girls are playing hard. They're representing Princeton so well, and you can just see the difference. And I've had so many alumni even come up and say, I'm so proud of this program because it had been down for a long time, but I can see the difference, and I'm going to continue to support you. Let me know what you need. And the Princeton community has been wonderful. And so I'm very appreciative of that. And I know we're kind of wrapping up on time, but I just want to say a couple thank yous if I got a minute or two.
Absolutely.
My athletic department, Joe Roberts, Latoya, and Tamet and Matt have been wonderful. Spring is like the most challenging season because of all the rainouts and stuff like that, and last minute changes and buses and all that. And they go with it. They go with the flow. They make sure we're taken care of. Our grounds crew is awesome. I mean, he'll text me like, oh, in the morning, hey, we got some puddles, not sure. But then you get to the field and it's immaculate. And the support staff, our buses and everybody, Princeton is awesome. It's been a great experience for me. They make the kids the best experience for these kids, and just very appreciative and glad of the fact that I'm here. We've got great kids. We're definitely turning the program around. I thank you for this opportunity to talk and brag on my kids because they deserve it. They really work hard to represent Princeton in the best way possible.
Joe, quickly before we run out of time here today, one of the things Coach Black talked about right there is the struggles that the girls have gone through mentally in dealing with COVID, and yet they're still out competing, and they're also willing to speak up, which not every kid around that age is willing to do. That's a difficult thing at times. Does it make it all the more impressive to you that the girls are out there competing and keeping their heads up, keeping their energy level up, given the fact that they've not always been 100% mentally?
It's resilience, that we've used that word all year long, and it's been, we can go back and talk about it years from now, that there'll be pandemics come and go down the road. I don't know if any of us will ever experience it at the level we've experienced this. Yeah. But I think that's because now we've seen it. Now we have a better reaction. We just have to figure out, what will be in front of us next. But the fact of the matter is, like Coach just said, without the support systems and the help that we have for the interest of our student athletes, we wouldn't be able to pull all of it off. I mean, every single day, anything we do, we always look at it and say, what do our kids need? What's in the best interest of our student athletes? What's in the best interest of our students? And that's the priority for us, and it will always be the priority for us. And it's so great to be able to watch them. Softball field, tennis court, swimming pool, lacrosse field. It doesn't matter what we're doing it for our kids, and they just show so much pride because they're out there with it. It's just great to see.
And it gives us a chance to talk about it here each and every week on the podcast. That is our time for now. Our thanks to Princeton Athletic Director Joe Roberts, and also our special guest, Princeton softball coach Craig Black, joining us for This Week in Princeton Vikings Athletics here on VikeNation.org and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.